Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura
Text 31. Chaitanya Nityanande Nahi Esava Vichara Namalate Premadana Bade Ashridara. Please repeat. Chaitanya Nityanande.
Chaitanya Nityanande.
When chanting the holy names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, Nahi, there are not, Esava, all these, Vichara, considerations, Nama, the holy name, Laite, simply by chanting, Prema, love of Godhead, Dena, they give, Bahe, there is a flow, Ashudhara, tears in the eyes. Translation. But if one only chants with some slight faith the holy names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, very quickly he is cleansed of all offenses. Thus, as soon as he chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he feels the ecstasy of love for God. Please repeat. But if one only chants with some slight faith the holy names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, very quickly he is cleansed of all offenses. Thus, as soon as he chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he feels the ecstasy of love for God. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks in this connection that if one takes shelter of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda and follows their instructions to become more tolerant than the tree and humbler than the grass, and in this way chants the holy name of the Lord, very soon he achieves the platform of transcendental service to the Lord, and tears appear in his eyes. There are offenses to be considered in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but there are no such considerations in chanting the names of Lord Nityananda. Therefore, if one chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but his life is still full of sinful activities, it will be very difficult for him to achieve the platform of loving service to the Lord. But if in spite of being an offender, one chants the holy names of Lord Nityananda, he is very quickly freed from the interactions of his offenses. Therefore, one should first approach Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, or worship Guru Gauranga, and then come to the stage of worshipping Radha Krishna. In our Krishna consciousness movement, our students are first advised to worship Guru Gauranga, and then, when they are somewhat advanced, the Radha Krishna deity is installed, and they are engaged in the worship of the Lord. One should first take shelter of Gaur Nityananda in order to reach, ultimately, Radha Krishna. Srila Narottam Das Thakur sings in this connection, Gauranga Balite Habe Kulaka Sharira Hari Hari Balite Nahe Bali Ara Kabai Nite Chandera Karuna Haibe Samsara Vasana Mora Kabe Tucha Habe Vishaya Chariya Kabe Shuddha Habe Kabe Hama Hedava In the beginning, one should very regularly chant Gaura Sundar's holy name, and then chant the holy name of Lord Nityananda. Then one's heart will be cleansed of impure desires for material enjoyment. Then one can approach Vrindavan Dham to worship Lord Krishna. Unless one is favored by Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, there is no need to go to Vrindavan. For unless one's mind is purified, he cannot see Vrindavan, even if he goes there. Actually, going to Vrindavan involves taking shelter of the 6 Goswamis. By reading Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava, and the other books that they have given. In this way, one can understand the transcendental loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. Kabe Hama Bhujava Seyulava Piriti. Conjugal love between Radha and Krishna is not an ordinary human affair. It is fully transcendental. In order to understand Radha and Krishna, worship them and engage in their loving service, one must be guided by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and the 6 Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya's direct disciples. For an ordinary man, worship of Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu, or the Panchatattva, is easier than worship of Radha and Krishna. Unless one is very fortunate, he should not be induced to worship Radha Krishna directly. A neophyte student who is not sufficiently educated or enlightened should not indulge in the worship of Sri Radha and Krishna or the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Even if he does so, he cannot get the desired result. One should therefore chant the names of Nitai Gaur and worship them without false prestige. Since everyone within this material world is more or less influenced by sinful activities, in the beginning it is essential that one take to the worship of Guru Gauranga and ask for their favor. For thus, despite all his disqualifications, one will very soon become qualified to worship the Radha Krishna Vigraha. It should be noted in this connection that the holy names of Lord Krishna and Gaur Sundar are both identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one should not consider one name to be more potent than the other. Considering the position of the people in this age, however, the chanting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name is more essential than the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most magnanimous incarnation, and his mercy is very easily achieved. Therefore, one must first take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasa Gaur Bhaktavinda. By serving Gaur Nityananda one is freed from the entanglements of material existence and thus becomes qualified to worship the Radha Krishna deity. I'll read the verse once more. Chaitanya Nityanande Nahi Esava Vichara Nama Laite Premadena Sahi Ashudara. But if one only chants with some slight faith the holy names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, very quickly he is cleansed of all offenses. Thus, as soon as he chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he feels the ecstasy of love for God. Now, this verse and purport follow several verses, but one important verse is text 24. Krishna Namakari Aparadera Vichar Krishna Balite Aparadira Nahaya Vikar. There are offenses to be considered while chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Therefore, simply by chanting Hare Krishna, one does not become ecstatic. Anyway, we have gathered here in the presence of Sri Sri Gaura Nitai, our host and hostess have come here from Laguna Beach, where the main deities are the Panchatattva. And the worship of the Panchatattva and the service of the Panchatattva are most important and essential. When we consider all of the injunctions to chant the holy names of Krishna without offense, and when we think of all the offenses that are listed, and we think of how we do in terms of chanting without offense, we might find that we are quite prone to commit offenses when we chant. Just the one offense I mentioned the other night, Abhipramada. Being inattentive. The word pramada, some of you might know, the word pramada means mad or crazy. Yunam pramata krute vikarma. People who are mad after sense gratification engage in sinful activities. At first, one might think pramada, mad, and pramada, inattention. What is the connection? When we chant, in effect, we are calling the names of Radha and Krishna. Krishna means Krishna, and Hare is the form of address for Radha, Radhe, Hare. So we're calling Radha and Krishna. And the holy name of Krishna is identical with Krishna. The holy name of Gaura is identical with Gaura. Krishna and Gora are identical to each other. So we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're calling Radha and Krishna. Please come and appear on my tongue. Please enter my ears. Please enter my heart. Please engage me in your service. That is the meaning of chanting the Maha Mantra, praying to Radha and Krishna to engage us in their service. And what do we do as soon as we call them and request them to be present and engage us in their service? We go somewhere else. And we do it again and again and again. I mean, what if we found out that our kind hosts here tonight, Brahmana Maharaj, that they keep phoning and asking me to come to their house, and then as soon as I ring the doorbell, they run upstairs and hide. If they did that again and again and again, we would think there's something wrong with them. They're crazy. But that's what we do. We call Krishna, and a moment later we're somewhere else. We call him, but actually, do we want to be with him? It's very difficult to get through even one mantra, 16 words. It's difficult to get through half a mantra, 8 words, without our mind wandering. So we're calling Krishna, please come, please engage me in your service. And immediately we split. We're at home, we're in the office, we're in India, we're in New York, we're in Los Angeles, we're at dance class, we're anywhere and everywhere. So, and then a few words later, or a few mantras later, or a few rounds later, we realize, whoa, where have I been? And then you think, oh, I can hear when you chant. And then, okay, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Whoop! Again I split. So, in fact, it's like having a split personality, because I'm always splitting. I'm calling Radha and Krishna and I'm splitting. It's like a split personality. So, that's why the word pramada, which means mad or crazy, has an appropriate connection to the word pramada, the same word which has the meaning of inattention. So this is one offense, but it's the most important. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that all other offenses, if we're inattentive, all other offenses perish. And if we are attentive, then all the other offenses will decrease and ultimately disappear. So this is a struggle. Of course, just to make the struggle is a sign of progress. Modern teachers of improvement mention 4 stages. One is unconscious incompetence. You're incompetent, but you're not even conscious of the fact that you're incompetent. So that could apply to us in chanting. We're inattentive, we're not even conscious that we are inattentive. There's a verse, I don't remember the verse right now, but there's a very odd construction in the Sanskrit in which the word Maya repeats. But if you read the translation, Maya won't be repeated twice because there's only one verb, there's only one predicate. But still, Maya, as it is repeated twice. And the explanation is given, it's something like, I'm paraphrasing, but something like, Krishna is hidden by Maya, but the word Maya is repeated twice. So the explanation is given that, okay, Krishna is hidden by Maya. We can't see Krishna. We have to find Krishna. But then there's another layer of Maya, if you will, that covers people so that they don't even know that there is a Krishna who's hidden. They're completely oblivious. So we meet people, we tell them about Krishna, and they may realize, oh, there's Krishna. Krishna's God. We have to find Krishna. So we still have to find him, but at least we know that he exists, and we have to find him. But many people, they don't even know there's a Krishna that exists to be found. So he's doubly hidden. So when it comes to this first level, of unconscious incompetence, it's like we're incompetent, but we don't even know that we're incompetent. And the next level is conscious incompetence. You're incompetent, but you know you're incompetent. You chant inattentively, but at least you're aware of the fact that you're inattentive when you chant, and you start to make an effort to hear the holy name when you chant. Then the next stage is conscious competence. In conscious competence, you make a conscious effort, but you're able to do it. In our progression of stages of advancement, a dosha, hatha, or something, that would probably correspond to nishta. You're able to fix your mind, but you have to make an effort. But you're able to do it. And then the highest stage is unconscious competence. In unconscious competence, you are competent and you don't even have to think about it. You're naturally competent. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a discussion between Arjuna and Krishna, which Arjuna says that, to me, the mind is more difficult to control than the wind. Chanchalaki Maya Krishna. It is impossible. It seems impossible. And Krishna replies, it is possible by, who knows?
Detachment and determination.
Practice.
50%. Yes?
Practicing.
Practice.
Yes. Yes. Detachment, vairagya, and practice of yasa. So, practice means we repeat. Prabhupada said practice makes perfect, even in spiritual life. And he said it in relation to chanting. Practice makes perfect. So we repeat the effort to bring the mind back to Krishna, to the sound of the holy name, that is practice. And practice is very important. We know in different arts, like playing music, I'm sure the same applies to dancing or skating, you have to practice. One famous musician said, if I don't practice for one day, I know it. If I don't practice for 2 days, my colleagues know it. And if I don't practice for 3 days, the whole world knows it. So practice is important. We have to be very vigilant and diligent in our practice. Abhyasa yoga. And by practicing, you become perfect. And then you come to the stage of unconscious, well, first conscious competence, then unconscious competence. This stage is described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his book, Madhurya Kadambini, in which he discusses these different stages. So, in the stage of asakti, no concert practice now. So, in the earlier stages we chant, we're trying to pay attention. We're trying to hear. And without our even knowing how, our mind has deviated. Our mind has gone somewhere else. We don't know how. We cannot think back and trace the moment at which our mind deviated. But somehow we realize, oh, I'm somewhere else. I don't even know how it happened. I have to get back to Krishna. In the stage of asakti, if by chance one's mind is distracted from Krishna, it will naturally be drawn back to Krishna. You don't even know how it happened. You don't even know how it happened. For a moment, you're thinking of something else and you're thinking of Krishna. And you have such attachment for Krishna. It's a matter of attachment. Right now we have material attachments. So when we chant, our mind automatically goes to the different things we're attached to. One devotee gave the example of stereo recording. Like they have like 8-track recordings or whatever. So you're chanting and you're trying to be on the holy name track. missing it, you're on the other track, the body track. Oh, I'm hungry. When is prasad going to be ready? What am I going to have for prasad? Or we switch to the relationship track. Oh, I'm having so much trouble with this person. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what's wrong for him. And we switch to the to-do list. Oh, totally forgot about that. I have to remember I have to do this. Oh, I have to do that. So we keep, and we don't even know how we switch onto these other tracks. And time passes and then we realize, oh, I better switch on the holy name track. So it is because of attachment. Our mind goes to whatever we're attached to most. And that is why it's very important to become attached to Krishna. So that at the time of death, we remember him and chant his holy name. Because our tendency is to go where our attachment lies. One of our god brothers, a very nice devotee, he told a story that he was driving a car, and the car stalled on the railway tracks. And naturally he was trying to get it going. And as he was trying to restart the vehicle, he saw that a train was coming. But he thought, well, because you never know, maybe this will be the time it starts. So he kept trying to start the car. And then after a few moments, he looked up and he saw the train was bearing down on the car and it was going to hit the car. And he thought, this is the end. And he began chanting Hare Krishna. And just then the train hit. And at the last minute he thought, what's going to happen to my wife? And he became unconscious. That was his last conscious thought. Because attachment. Of course, she's a devotee. So he was thinking of devotee, but he was thinking of his wife. Although, up until that moment, he was chanting. He was making a conscious effort to chant. But because of attachment, at the last minute, his mind went his way. So, therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Maya Sabda Manohapartha. With mind attached to me. This verse, chapter 7, text 1, is the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, or probably the verse from every scripture that Prabhupada spoke on the most. Maya Sattva, with mind attached to it. In other words, we have to increase our attachment to Krishna. That's the whole process of Bhakti Yoga, to become attached to Krishna. And when we're attached, asakti means attachment. When we're attached, then our mind will automatically go to Krishna. We don't even have to think about it. We don't have to make an effort. It'll just go there. Even if for a moment we think of something else, it will go back to Krishna. And then, of course, as Bhava and Prema, there's questions, full absorption, and Krishna with static love. So, given that we are sort of struggling to come out of unconscious incompetence and come to conscious incompetence, it would appear that we have a ways to go before we can chant without offense. So what is our hope? And that is the great blessing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, the great blessing of the Panchatattva, that in the age of Kali, the horrible age of Kali, they have descended. And they are so merciful that they don't consider offenses. The word vichara means consideration. There's no consideration of offenses with them because they're so merciful. Just their nature. They're extraordinarily merciful. And so when we chant their names and engage in their service, we become cleansed of offenses and freed from material desires. So this dual effort of chanting the names of the Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri and serving the Sankirtan movement on the one hand, and on the other side chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and in some cases worshipping the Radha Krishna Vigraha. Those go together. Those go together. But if we have to begin somewhere, we begin with Gaudi type. Because they are very merciful and liberal. My godbrother, Bhakti Chaitanya Swami, told me of an exchange he had with Srila Prabhupada. He didn't have so much personal association with Srila Prabhupada. He only had a couple of personal interactions with him. But at the Bhaktivedanta Manor in London, he asked him that when we preach, we might disturb the minds of the people to whom we're preaching. And is that an offense? One of the items of devotional service is not to give pain to any living entity. That's another discussion. It's one of the items of devotional service, not to give pain to any living entity. And the Bhagavad Gita also says, do not disturb the mind of the ignorant, but engage them in work in the mood of devotion. Once a disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, what about this, not disturbing the minds of the ignorant? Prabhupada said, you must disturb their minds. So Bhakti Chaitanya Swami asked Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada answered that when you are sincerely engaged in preaching, there's no offense. Even if the person gets upset, there's no offense. And I took it as Gauri-Nitai's mercy, and that's confirmed here. That when we're sincerely engaged in their service with no ulterior motive, they don't consider offense. You're trying your best, that's all that they see. You're trying your best. Once Srila Prabhupada said, you may chant, you may preach very perfectly, but still people may not accept. Once one of my godbrothers saw it. Well, Prabhupada didn't know he was being watched. And it's a mood that we didn't see in Srila Prabhupada openly. But I will he was climbing up the stairway to Srila Prabhupada's quarters, which was in one of the old tenement buildings in the back of the property. And as he was walking up the stairs, a man came like storming down the stairs in a huff. Like his face was red. He was obviously very upset. And he just apparently had stormed out of the room, storming out of the building. And Petit Udaran got to the top of the stairs where Srila Prabhupada's room was. And he looked in and noticed Srila Prabhupada sitting on his asana behind his table, saying, I just can't do it anymore. I just can't do it anymore. I just cannot criticize Ramakrishna like this anymore. But obviously the man might have taken offense, but obviously Srila Prabhupada didn't commit any offense. He was doing his best to help the man give up an illusory attachment that was an impediment to his spiritual project. And as preachers, we have to do that. Sadhu means to cut. We have to cut people's attachments. And part of the way we do it is by preaching. The main way is by preaching. By exposing the fallacy of their attachments. Like the Bhagavatam says, although death may come at any moment, but the attached householder surrounds himself by fallible soldiers. So we have all these fallible soldiers that our army, that we gather around us. Our family members, our friends, our doctors, our homes, the lock on the door, the security company, defense. We take all these measures to protect ourselves from death. But they're fallible soldiers. They're not going to be able to protect us. So to make advancement, we have to lessen our attachment to these fallible soldiers and realize that the solution, saving grace, is Krishna. And when those thoughts that preoccupy us involve the concept of life. But for Nitai are so merciful that they sort of they free us of attachment. They free us of attachment. The famous example is Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das, his father and uncle were extremely wealthy. So they were like kings and they were pious. By their charity, they were maintaining practically the whole Brahmin community. And their family priest was Yadunandanacharya, who was a disciple of Dvaitacharya. They held an assembly to discuss the holy name. They invited Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur, to speak. So they had that association and that piety. But still, they were attached to material enjoyment. And Raghunath Das was detached. Actually, he wanted to leave home and join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So once he escaped the home, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed him, don't be a crazy fellow. This is another instruction. the word Margata Vairagya, because that's what we need, Vairagya, detachment. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, don't be a crazy fellow. He used this term, Margata Vairagya. Margata means monkey. Vairagya means detachment. So don't practice the detachment of a monkey. Monkeys appear to be very detached because they live in the jungle. They just eat fruits and roots. They don't have any clothes or possessions. But each monkey has so many monkey friends of the opposite sex. So they appear to be very renounced, like sadhus living in the jungle, but actually they're very attached to that association. So, in contrast to Margata Vairagya is Yukta Vairagya, which means balanced renunciation. So Lord Chaitanya advised Raghunath Das to return home and be very expert in your material duties. Be very responsible in your household duties. And when the time comes, Krishna will release you from the bondage of family life. This is a very important instruction for us. Most of us are householders. Sannyasa is not even recommended. Most people will be householders. So perform your duties very expertly and internally think of Radha and Krishna. And when the time comes, Krishna will deliver you. And then as it happened, sometime later, Nityananda Prabhu came to Panihati, which was nearby. Raghunath Das' home, the home of his father and uncle. And Raghunath Das met Nityananda Prabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu gave him his mercy. And almost immediately, effortlessly, he was able to escape the bondage of family life. So that is our process. It's mercy. It's actually the mercy of Gauranitai that will release us. Now, this is not to say that you should be waiting for the day that you can walk out of the house. Because, as I mentioned, sannyasa isn't really recommended in a way. In a way it is, but in a way it's not. More recommended is Kshetra Sannyas. Kshetra Sannyas means that the husband and wife can remain together in a holy place, like, or a place where the deity of the Lord is installed, like Radha Chanting. So, Srila Prabhupada comments, I think he quotes Dr. Vinod Thakur that Kshetra Sannyas is the preferred position of Vanaprastha in Kali Yuga. So we don't really need to be thinking of that. I mean, Raghunath Das Goswami was on a different level. But we should be praying, as we read in this purport, we should be praying for the mercy of Lord Nityananda so that our material attachments to Chahali will become insignificant. Because then we'll be able to chant the holy names of Radha and Krishna, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Then we'll be able to serve Radha and Krishna. And then we'll be able to actually enter Sri Vrindavan. Hare Krishna.
finished the lecture by saying we should ask the Lord Nityananda to help us to overcome our desires. But what if we don't even want to ask him to do that? Then should we ask him to give us the desire to ask him to overcome our desires?
Yes, very good. Very good. Because it's an offense to maintain material attachments. It's not an offense to have them, but it's an offense to maintain them. Do not have complete faith in the channel to maintain material attachments, even in spite of instructions. So, it's not an offense to have attachments. We all have attachments, but it is an offense to hold on to them. And it might be hard to want to become free from them, because we're attached to our attachments. So we can pray to have the desire to become free from our attachments. Like that. Yes, that's... Yeah. Like we can pray to chant with attention, but we may not even have a strong desire to chant with attention. We can pray to have the desire to chant with attention. That's very good. That's the answer. Everything is based on desire. Yes?
Maharaj, you said something about doing a Sankirtan movement and participating in that, and that will be one of the way of doing a service to Lord Nityananda. What are some other practical things that one can do to the service to the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda?
The whole ISKCON is meant to serve the mission of Panchatattva. Book distribution, Harinam Sankirtan, festivals, and all the activities that support the mission. Raising funds, keeping accounts, going to the bank, writing checks, in the temple room. It's all part of the Sankirtan mission. But we have to be careful that we stay focused on the goal. And we don't get so caught up in collecting money and banking it that we forget what it's ultimately meant for. Srila Prabhupada gave the example that in the Indian railways, they have these signs, keep the wheels turning in all the offices. And you think this person is sitting in his office behind a desk. What does he have to do with keeping the wheels turning? You know, those are the people in the field that are keeping the wheels turning. But then he realized actually the whole effort is meant to culminate in keeping the wheels turning. He said in the same way, our effort is meant to culminate in keeping the books going out. Whatever the different services are, it's meant to culminate in propagation of the message. So we always have to keep focused. Okay, that.
Maharaj just stated that a sincere preacher is protected by burning time. And is there, should one fear that, say, a preacher's inexperienced and they go to somebody and they say, we believe in mountains that have wings, or Giriraj Maharaj was 9 feet tall and he was 5, or people live so long on different planets. And this way it causes somebody to have a lack of faith because of the inexperienced preaching. Would that preacher, possibly be offense in his preaching? Because preaching the faithless are causing that person to maybe develop some lack of faith because of the inexperience?
Yeah, well, the devotees who go to preach should be qualified. They should be educated before they go to preach. And that is an offense to preach to the faithless. But in other words, that's a little different from what Bhakti Chaitanya Swami asked. He was, but yeah, I think the authority should be careful about who goes to preach. They should be qualified. They should be taught how to preach. But if someone is ignorant and has good intentions, but he doesn't know how to preach, that's not an offense. But if he's been told not to go to the faith of the neck, just try to engage them, but not preach to them, and then he goes against that, then that could be an offense. But that's the whole point, that there are offenses to be considered in chanting Hare Krishna, but not in chanting or in chanting. So even though that is an offense against the holy name, but if it's done in the service of Lord Nityananda, I think it would be taken too seriously.
Maharaj, you're stressing chanting Hare Krishna mantra attentively. Srila Prabhupada made a very interesting statement in the booklet about neophytes not chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Could you explain that?
Lalita Sati with her keen eye and ears is not overlooked.
Special fulcrum.
No, it's not good. So, if we chant the Panchatattva mantra first, then we can chant the Hare Krishna mantra. And once Prabhupada asked that question, and Prabhupada said, example is more important than precept. So even though this is the precept, but Lord Chaitanya set the example of chanting Hare Krishna. So that's why we chant Hare Krishna. But first we chant the Panchatattva mantra.
I just wanted to bring up a little story that in the minor of 1976, there were 4 Indian gentlemen that Prabhupada was preaching to. And the youngest of the 3 of the men were probably in the 50s or 60s, and the other one was probably in the 20s. So he was complaining to Prabhupada that the boys are selling prasad at Janmashtami. And Prabhupada said, that's okay, they can sell prasad. In any case, you would not give donation unless you sold prasad. So he made a big joke out of it. The 3 men, anyway, the way they told it is quite bad. The 3 men just got very laughing. And the other man was kind of embarrassed, But then he got in the house and they all ended up laughing. So I was thinking of a story that was kind of similar to what you were thinking. He said that Prabhupada used humor is to defeat that.
Yeah. Yes.
The recommendation is that we chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra a day. Is there any kind of similar recommendation or discipline for chanting the Maha Mantra?
Oh, well, 16 rounds is the minimum.
That's
16 rounds minimum.
Okay.
As far as the Panchatattva mantra, in the third time, Srila Prabhupada said 3 times before we begin the Hare Krishna mantra. But once in the early days, the devotees did kirtan only the Panchatattva mantra. No Hare Krishna at all on one occasion. Prabhupada didn't stop them. He allowed them. But the rule is we should chant it 3 times.
For our own personal practice, like before we chant our 16 rounds, we should chant 3 times Panchatattva mantra? Or?
Well, there's no specific recommendation. I know many devotees, they chant the Panchatattva mantra after each round or before starting the next round. never hurts.
My son asked me to ask you a question. He's outside 13. And he was asking, how can he believe in Krishna? Probably what they understand.
Well, Prabhupada asked the same question to some devotees. How do you know that Krishna is God? So someone said, because you told us. Prabhupada said, I could be lying. And then someone said, well, Krishna says so in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada said, the Bhagavad Gita could be false. So they gave different answers, and no one could get the right answer. And then finally one devotee said, because when I chant Hare Krishna, I feel Krishna's presence. And Prabhupada lit up and said, yes, that is the answer. And I think that's an answer that your son should understand. That when you chant the holy name of Krishna, you feel good. And you feel Krishna's prasad for you. And that's how you know. I mean, the other things they do is that they require some knowledge and faith. But the chanting you can experience for yourself. And then you know Krishna's there. There's another answer. It's not an answer to the question, but it's a procedure for getting answers to questions. Once Srila Prabhupada told our godbrother Giriraj that if you have any issues, and sometimes we have issues with Krishna, if you have any issues, just go to Lord Bhagavad and present your issue to him. And Giriraj Prabhu said, now after some time, a lady joined the temple in Vrindavan from Muslim background. And she learned everything about Krishna consciousness, but she couldn't understand the deity. She just couldn't understand the deity. And Islam was like really taboo. So, and devotees preached to her. She was very nice. She would come, she would chant, she would do everything, but she just couldn't accept the deity. Then finally, I don't recall if it was Giriraj or himself or someone who heard the story, but one of the devotees said, well, just go to Lord Balaram and whatever your issue is, just place it before him. So she went before Lord Balaram. She stayed there for like 45 minutes. And after 45 minutes, she came back to the devotee and said, now I understand. Krishna is God, and the deity is Krishna. That's amazing. Srila Prabhupada.